Hello and welcome once again to Screenwalks. My name is Marc Dubois and I'm digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur. Screenwalks is a collaborative program initiated by the Photographers Gallery in London and Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland, with support by Pro Helvetia. This series of fortnightly live-streamed events was created in 2020 as a joint effort by both institutions to continue the investigations of the changing role of photography in its digital and networked forms. Every Screenwalk is led by an artist, a curator, or a researcher, in this case, a collective of artists, performing guided explorations of the places where their core practice takes place. Invited participants take the audience through different online spaces and networked images, from obscure platforms to a popular website, seen through the eyes and screens of our guests. From drone vision to satellite images, no Screenwalk is the same. Artists, researchers, and curators are invited and encouraged to play with the properties of the live stream, as well as the possibilities of screen sharing. If this is your first Screenwalk, please make sure to visit our website, screenwalks.com, to check the recordings of all our previous events. Our archive now counts more than 40 events. Now, for those of you in Zoom, your microphone should be muted. If not, please go ahead and mute it now. This event is being recorded and will be archived, so please turn off your camera if you don't want to be recorded. Feel free to send questions to me or John privately in the public chat in Zoom, privately or in the public chat in Zoom, and we'll bring your questions to our guests.
And hello from my side too. I'm John Uriarte, curator of the digital programs, the Photographers Gallery in London. Today, we will be looking into the infrastructures that make network images possible. Guided by the Swiss collective Fragmentin, formed by Laura Nieder, David Colombini, and Marc Dubois. I will dive into one of the less tangible elements of those infrastructures, the electromagnetic waves. Even if the visible waves have an obvious role in the visual arts, today we will be looking into the waves that we cannot see with the naked eye. Fragmentin will be sharing their work dealing with the electromagnetic waves in charge of transmitting data. Wi-Fi, 4G, 5G networks have become common terms that we use on our everyday life. Those are the communication networks that allow us to meet online right now, to make phone calls, share images on social media, and so on. Those networks rely on electromagnetic waves emitted and received by a myriad of portable devices, large antennas, underwater fiber optic cables, and data centers. During the Screenwalk today, first, we will explore the aesthetics and politics connected to those infrastructures through some of the works that the collective has created recently. They will share some of the strategies that they have developed to capture electromagnetic waves that surround us and transform them into visual and sonic experiences. And in the second part of the event, the trio will head out to the street with a portable instrument that measures radio frequencies, producing different sounds depending on the intensity of the signal. Using that device, we will be able to hear the data carrying electromagnetic waves that will counter while they wander around Lausanne. Fragmentin is an artist collective based in Switzerland, founded in 2014 and composed by 3 ECAL alumni. Their work is at the crossroads of art and engineering and questions the impact of the digital and everyday life, investigating those technologies' disposition towards control and opacity. Fragmentin's work is often conceived as a space of discussion on crucial contemporary themes and issues such as climate change and other topics. Through installation, video, interaction, performance, the studio artworks demystify complex systems and reveal the tension between emergent technologies and society. Their work has been exhibited in Switzerland and internationally, including photography institutions as CIO in Berlin, Geo-political in Paris, and Geo Photo Festival in Bilbao, Spain, and have been awarded several prizes. While continuing the exhibit or to exhibit their work in museums and to develop collaborations with galleries, Fragmentin aims to make art and its debates more accessible to the audience and more rooted into the public space, notably proposing interventions in natural landscapes, urban spaces, inside a church, or by creating online experiences such as the Screenwalk today, which we are really happy and excited to see and to watch with you. So with no further ado, I just want to welcome You guys, welcome to the Screenworks. We are really happy to have you, and the screen is yours.
Thanks a lot for the introduction. So I will start sharing my screen now. Thanks for the introduction. It was very, very complete. So I will not explain much more of what we do at Fragmentin, just to say that what we work on is mostly sculptures and mixed media installation. Here I just scroll a little bit so you can see a bit the different installation we worked on. Sometimes it's also in printed form, but most rarely, most of the pieces are interactive. And today we're going to talk much about electromagnetic waves. So I will start with this piece called N1 Observatory, which is a digital observatory. But first, I will show you a bit how we started with the piece. By showing you a few pictures of the, how to say, when we went on, sorry about that. Oh.
The context of the context of the work.
Yeah, this should be off and off. So to say a bit the context, we were invited by Art Sapiental, which is a biennale. So every 2 years, they do installation outdoor in the nature. So as you explained before, we like unusual places. So this piece takes place in a mountain top. You can see a bit here. And we wanted to see infrastructure first to get inspired. So we did a hike in Sapiental in the valley, which is in the Grison in Switzerland. So here you can see a bit. It's a really beautiful valley, by the way, but we were mostly interested by the infrastructure hidden in the landscape. Here you can see a bit like a small pylon here. And further, we were just hiking for this antenna. We can get closer and you can see a bit all the different parts of the antenna. And as we hiked closer and closer, we started feeling a bit bad, like headaches, you know, so we could directly feel the impact of the technology on us. This was also like fun images that we saw during the hikes. And this is the base of the infrastructure with all those big cables. We also downloaded an app where you could see a bit more the networks. So that was when we were near the antenna. So it was pretty dense. And also in Sapiental, there is a lot of cool infrastructure. So they are very proud of having the first solar ski lift and many solar panels everywhere. So our research led us to create this piece. I will maybe start with the video actually. It's at the top of the mountain called Swisstopo, and the idea was to it's absurd, but it's a VR experience at the top of the mountain. So you have to hike for 45 minutes and then you sit there and just wear a VR headset. And it's actually an observatory of all the infrastructure that is around you. So in the VR, you have another view of the landscape and you can see everything that is done in the landscape. We also like this absurd idea to go in a beautiful landscape just to do a VR experience. And here you can see a bit more.
Here you see that this kind of digital aesthetics of point cloud that Marc will explain a bit later how we came out with that aesthetics.
Here you can see that the landscape is actually distorted by the the
4G.
yeah, the 4G and 5G networks. So if it's intense, it will actually make the landscape go higher. And you can actually see that even if we feel like we are in a remote place, it's quite good covered by the 5G networks actually.
The small like red antennas is the position of the surrounded antennas. Here is a mix between like film that we did from the actual VR. So we try to kind of map like the natural landscape and this kind of digitalized one.
And just to show you a few images of the piece, it was actually inspired by the triangles that you can see on the mountain tops that were before the GPS used to do like cartography of the landscapes. So we liked the idea to do a new one actually. We also liked several details that you can find, for example, in the lunar modules. So like those kind of nice Miller textures, the solar panel as well. And also we kind of like the idea that you could maybe have a hiker.com going to Instagram and being in a remote landscape, just charging his phone. And now I will pass the mic to David.
Yes, Mia, I'm going to show you a bit more. So we don't focus too much on the sculpture part, but rather on the visual part. So you wonder a bit how we came out with all this hidden data. So we can see it a bit on the landscape, like Laura showed it, the antenna we saw at the beginning of our trip. So here we are on Swisstopo, which is basically a pretty complex website, open data website in Switzerland, where you can have different data, public data like rivers, different things that you can also find all the antennas location. So now I start with the kind of empty map. And here I can, so here we are in Safiental Valley. Now I can show you in blue the position of the 4G antenna. Here is the cover, basically. If it's covered by 3 or 4 operator, still the 4G. Here we have the, it's called radio waves. So it's more like the direct waves between 2 antennas to transfer a certain type of frequencies. Here, the same with the 5G. Here is the position of the 5G antenna. So you see it's quite, so you can really like move, and actually the one that Laura showed you in picture is this one. And you can have basically all the position and things like that. Sometimes it's really hidden on the field. So it's also quite nice to suddenly like change and go to IRL view and see really where it stands in the landscape. So from that, we can export the data. We also actually can draw on Swisstopo. Here, if I put, I come back to maybe the white one. So here you have more like, it becomes quite visual and quite abstract. But here we draw basically the distance between our piece in Schüssli, which was here in the middle, and the different antennas around. And then we export it to another format, and Marc will show you how we, from that kind of, let's say, raw data, we can take screenshot or export it. Then we manage to kind of integrate it into the landscape. So now I leave it to Marc, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So I will just mute. Maybe you can come back a bit later to this map if there is any interest. But
okay, so just to show you a little bit how we've done this. Actually, we downloaded some map on this Swisstopo website, and all this map we worked on them to like transform them to what we call hate map. So to have an ability to use them, like to say, for example, white is something and black is nothing. So this is the different kind of map we used. We also had to find a model, a 3D model of the Safian Valley, of Safiental Valley. And this model actually came as this kind of data. So this kind of raw data of like just the coordinate of the map and X, Y, and Z coordinates. So we had to take all of this and transform them into 3D objects. Let's open it to this. So this data we found on Swisstopo allowed us to create this kind of shape. And at the end, we managed to have this shape of the valley. We transformed it into this dot aesthetics, managing to find the place where the piece were, like exactly in the middle of the
summit.
Yes, on the summit, but on the middle. So the piece is here, for example. And so you can see it's really small in comparison to the whole element. We also transform a little bit the shape to have like more dots nearby to kind of conserve the same amount of points on prox on near the same density on near places and on far away places. And after that, we used this program called Unity, that is an app to normally used to create video games. But here we used it to create this app for the VR headset. And so we use these maps. I will show you a little bit. This map, we use them here on the left. Actually, they are put inside something that we call a shader, and after that, it's used to like modify the landscape. We will see it in 2 seconds. Here, for example, you have the antennas that have been mapped also, so the antenna appear around this landscape that you can see from. And yeah, for example, here. You can see that the landscape is like transforming because, for example, we say like this black, this map, the black is like stay low and the white like make the mountain go like higher. And so it transforms all the landscape.
So it takes actually the data I showed you before on Swisstopo, like flat.
This kind of map.
Yeah, exactly. Like the yellow and the green, it's kind of the coverage of 4G. So depending on where you stand, and actually then map it directly to the topography.
Yeah. Actually, it's these ones that are used exactly that are mapped on the landscape was this shape exactly. And this other kind of data we had was, for example, the data for the antennas, and this kind of data we had to just get them like this. So actually, we extracted the data from Swisstopo, having like, for example, the name of the antenna, the altitude, like the XY position, so GPS coordinates and stuff like this. If they are connected to 2G, 3G, 4G, and after that, inside Unity, we just connect the ones that are connected, yeah, thanks to this data. So this is a way we just worked with this kind of elements to create this experience.
Maybe the radio waves is also nice to see. It's basically the line in between antennas. Because like waves, as you mentioned, John, at the beginning, is something is intangible. And here we kind of have really this direct, almost like a laser between two antennas. Marc will show it.
Yeah, first you have the antennas that appears. And
I think we also saw it in the video that Laura showed at the beginning. But
But yeah, to show you, maybe we can just go back to there. And this was like a first test of the rendering before it became black and white. And here you can see in pink, it's like the link between the different like the rudder waves David told you. And the yellow one is like the wind. We wanted to have like several different type of data we were modifying the landscape. Also, after this this project called N1, we made another one in Geneva, and instead of putting it in nature, we installed it in the middle of the city. It was here in Geneva, and we've done the same with the data. We have been like again on Swisstopo and extracted again this kind of elements of data of JSON elements, and we've redone the work on it. Video, this one,
maybe sound as well.
Paysage urbain fragmenté et recomposé. Fort champ électromagnétique et infrastructure réseau. 40 antennes sur 4 km². 3G, 4G, 5G, 6 GHz à 16 GHz,
16 GHz à 30 GHz, 30 GHz à 90 GHz, fréquence bande basse, courbe lisse, fibres optiques.
Est-ce que la multiplication
de ces réseaux peut également mener notre écosystème à saturation?
So maybe explaining quick because it's in French. I don't know if you want to explain the sound. So basically it's kind of read the type of frequencies which kind of accumulate, and also our goal as artists is also a bit to question how much of these network have been installed everywhere without really democratic discussions. So, and we will see a bit later that some people are directly affected by these waves in terms of health. And here it's both a kind of a visual play, let's say, with those like kind of aesthetics, but also kind of raising awareness about all these networks around us that keep accumulating since more than 20 years. I mean, like here we specifically talk about the waves for communication, for network communication. And yes.
Yeah, but as you said, the impact, we directly felt it when we were in Swisstopo as well. Like people are really affected by this, but we actually felt it as well. Like we felt kind of sick.
Yeah, it was strange.
Big antenna, like both of us.
Yeah, I don't know.
And here we can just see a few images. So that was one of the first version of the project. So what Marc showed you before was like the finishing piece, but we also tested the different aesthetics. So it's also nice to show this because we actually not really show it usually. But this is like more with the detail of the building is just the outlines, and after that we decided to go with point cloud, but it's just to show. And here you can see a bit on this image. You can see well. So it's Carouge, like in Geneva, and then you can see all around it all those networks. So it was also a nice way to visualize for a bit further about.
You see it's more crowded than in a mountain as well. So we can
yeah,
maybe make in both cases we exhibit in public space. So like visitors were wearing the headset outside. So it's also this kind of contrast between a very cold aesthetics, virtual aesthetics, and something you can feel the wind outside, or the sun on your skin, or things like that. So there was also this kind of aspect conceptually.
And again, about the way we transformed it, we transformed everything to like create this point cloud aesthetics, was again to find these different data. And for this one, we used another way. Let's say we didn't use a 3D model, we just used a flat shape, and after that we distorted it with a black and white map again. So for example, we found the Carouge place with all the shape of the buildings. And we create really simple map like this, that if you put it on the city, it will give like the exact places of each antennas around Carouge. So this, for example, was 5G. Here you have the 4G, so you have more. So it becomes completely abstract. Like it's just images that represent the position and antennas of the antennas. And here you have like a simple dot to just show them, because we wanted to treat a little bit differently the building in front of the installation that was a church. So it was just to separate it in the VR. And also like a building that is a data center in Geneva. And at the end, when you accumulate everything, you have again this
loading bar.
This loading bar. This is very nice. Nice design, green bar. You have again like this first really flat landscape of just dots. And you can, with this kind of maps, again, just let's move this here. For example, just activate the 5G and it will just transform the landscape. So you can see that it will create this kind of mountains.
Like antenna,
yeah. And you can add like the city that will transform, and also depending of the height, it will change the color, so it will create different kind of aesthetics. And you can navigate. And we made this in this project. You were like flying with the VR headset, so at some point you were like going on top of the city, because we quite like to fly over these aesthetics. And yeah, you can activate all the data, and it accumulates to this final landscape.
Paysage urbain fragmenté et recomposé.
And yeah, you are inside.
I think that's kind of it for these two VR projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
ouais, on peut basculer. Alors David, non, c'était pour David. Du coup, David.
Yeah, now we
yeah.
We're gonna show another another project still on the same topic, but with a kind of different. So this time it's not a VR piece, but it's more sculptural and sound piece. So we install it in a church. So basically, our idea was to kind of make a ready-made and install a TV, a telecommunication tower inside a church, which is again pretty absurd and could be strange at first sight. So the first goal of this project was to, again, it was our fascination also for these infrastructural aesthetics. And at the same time, we wanted to go a bit deeper into the topic of waves in general, not only the electromagnetic one, but more like the natural one. So what we did is we hacked the antenna. So we find this pylon. I'm going to show you a bit the process of finding this, because you will ask, how could you find such a big pylon? And because yeah, first of all, it was the ecological aspect of not rebuilding one, but really recycling material and finding so we find this rusty pylon that we chop in different parts and painted. And as I mentioned, we also hacked the antennas itself. So here you see the parabolic antenna and inside them we had speakers that was diffusing directional sounds, and there was 5 speakers, and we invite 5 different people with different background to intervene to the piece. There is like musicians, anthropologue, a poet, 2 sound artists, women from Geneva. And here the sound is kind of, again, as John mentioned in our piece, we like to have create a space for discussion on topic. We don't say, oh, waves are bad and that's it. It's more like, okay, we have this topic and there is like let's say negative aspect or interesting aspect into it, and we like to discuss with people and also raise awareness on certain issues. So maybe I show you a bit quickly the video before going to the details of the, I don't know if you hear the sound here. The beginning is pretty. So the name of the piece is actually the Wi-Fi of the church, the ULX. The Wi-Fi name of the church.
Écoute. Suspends ton geste, oublie le reste.
Observer ces antennes, c'est s'intéresser à ce que l'on ne voit pas d'habitude. C'est développer des arbres remarqués dont parle l'anthropologue.
At the longest wavelengths
Plus précisément, on est sur une sorte de petit plateau, c'est une antenne d'antenne parabolique, 25
which carry energy and they deliver a message. They are the way we communicate.
Certaines sont très volumineuses, comme l'œil 3 sous nos yeux.
La forme des paraboles multiplie la puissance de signaux imperceptibles en concentrant les ondes sonores ancrées dans la matière des signaux. Les ondes imperceptibles émises par les pylônes affectent certains corps hypersensibles comme un affreux tintamarre. Les paraboles sont des récits disant autre chose que ce qu'ils disent. Le souffle du vent dans les pylônes génère des bourdonnements.
So here you heard the different interventions. Sometimes it was like more true. Sometimes here you hear the music. Yes. Now I'm just going to show you a quick one about, because also what I mentioned before is like these aesthetics of these infrastructure and also how they are integrated in the landscape. So here is maybe I start again. Here's the location actually of this pylon that we find somehow was pretty strange. It was like several phone call and suddenly a company say, okay, yes, I have a 21 meters pylon in my in my garage or garden almost. So he was working in that field and then apparently he didn't need it anymore. So we went there also to shoot and to shoot the location and yeah, to get these objects. And as I mentioned, we chop it in different parts because it was also to ask, should we build more of those infrastructure? Should we destroy them? So it was also all the kind of debate. I think also in the UK, you had some 5G destruction of antennas or things like this recently. So also I think in Switzerland we had some. So there was really this idea of something in tension in the church that was half built and half. Here is one of the biggest and famous antennas in Switzerland. This antennas is not anymore used as communication tool, but they use it people to climb on top of it. So it becomes more like a touristic attraction.
C'est ici le grand bal des ondes qui sculpte l'air.
Electromagnetic waves differ from mechanical waves.
L'existence de ce lieu avec ses paraboles gigantes.
Yeah, I cut it here. Yeah, I mentioned that the big antenna is not anymore used for communication, but people are going there. They keep it actually as a sign in the landscape for people to guide themselves, and also as a tourist attraction to climb on top of it. So it was kind of a mise en abîme, having the truck with our pylon going next to this big antenna. Sorry. Yeah. Still about the shape and also the geopolitical aspect of these elements. We went with Nicolas Nova on another big antenna, this time really huge. It's in Loesch or Loic, between Lausanne and Brig. Let's say it's in the valleys part of Switzerland. But as you see, maybe in the here, you see a bit better. There is the Rhône Valley, and here a bit where my mouse is the lake and Geneva, more or less. So you see that you are a bit on top of this, and it's very strategic point. And those antennas, there are like 25 of them, more than, I think the biggest is 25 diameter meters, so it's really big. We went there with Nicolas, and he made kind of a talk about the historical aspect of those elements. And some of them were used for spy purpose, and other of them for more communication or commercially. So it was quite interesting to see this kind of dark side of these antennas. And also the tourist aspect is very funny. They have a parking with like really like a panel, like almost exhibition panel to see this antenna, as you can see an artwork in the public space. So it was also very that aspect that was interesting for us. Now, yeah, still about the shape of antenna. This is all the research also about the different typology of antennas. And finally, yeah, if we keep, some is photo we did and some other is a photo we found online. Maybe this one on the bottom right is quite funny. It's like the trees antenna. I don't know if you know them. In Switzerland, they are not. They are forbidden. They're not allowed. It's basically you hide antennas inside the fake trees, but in other countries it's pretty common. And I think now Marc will show you a bit more like also the visual aspect of the waves. How we can. Okay, yeah, that's more like, again, this kind of very data aesthetics of how waves, basically sound waves or other waves, could be transformed into very visual and almost like a fire aesthetics again.
And because we tried with this piece to create a relationship between like waves and sound, that is pretty obvious at the end. Like in the church, we try to represent the waves with like sound that you can catch and just hear people speaking to you. We wanted to play a little bit with it for the flyer and the poster of the project. And so we used the voice of Nicolas Nova because we really liked what he was saying, and we used his voice to create different posters, like analyzing the sound and extracting let's say the different frequencies and creating this kind of aesthetic. So this was the final poster. Yeah, they like the text here. After that, a graphic designer had the text and some stuff, but it was like the background of the poster that was generated. And it was just to show you this link that is really direct between like this sentence of Nicolas Nova that is just saying we are on a plateau in front of 20 parabolic antennas. And it was funny to just take this sentence and to hide it into this image because at the end, when you were entering the church, you were like suddenly stuck, not in a plateau, but in a church, but in front of like 6 or 7 different kind of parabolic antennas, And so, yeah, it was a little bit to play with this aesthetics also. So this we generated ourselves.
Maybe you can show the another project. We are going a bit in every direction. It's still the same topic, but another small, let's say, 3D generative project. Yeah, side project, still about the shape of the pylon that Marc can show you.
It was more based about this research of aesthetics, and it was a little bit different ideas coming, and we were trying just to modelize also the antennas, to put it in the church in a 3D model, to find everything. And at the end, we just managed to create this infinite antennas using all the different graphical elements we found. And it's an ongoing project. Maybe we'll do something with this, and like, yeah, it's infinite. It's like a generative pylon that goes like forever. And yeah, one thing can be funny is just to say, okay, yeah, actually the pylon is like it's like destructing on bottom and constructing on top, and actually you can accelerate and just yeah, go forever to this pylon. We don't know what we'll do, but this kind of side project sometimes happens.
Actually, it's kind of part of more another research, yeah, called obsolology, more like post-digital archaeology. But yeah, this was kind of directly related to today's topic, so we thought it's fun to show you. Maybe now I'm going to introduce a bit the device that we will use for the small performance at the end of the talk. Actually, this device, we show it first we test it first in the church. I don't know if I can find the photo somewhere. I show you here what I don't know how much you can see here. Yeah, I can show it here. It's you have like an antenna, and basically it reads high frequencies between 800 megahertz and 3 gigahertz. So different types like Bluetooth, 4G, Wi-Fi again, and it has a direct sound feedback, which is pretty interesting also to really. I can make you hear also the different sound of this network. Basically, it reads the sound in an analog mode. I suppose il faut aller dans le drive là. Faut aller dans le drive. And then dans la petite liste là. Là, tu veux voilà. Here in the tac. This one, yeah. Yeah, thanks. So for instance, the Bluetooth sounds like this. Yeah. Okay. You hear the sound or not? Il faut partager l'écran. Yeah. Share screen with sound, and yeah, there is nothing. Yeah, there is nothing very visual, but it's important if you remember a bit how it sounds, and then when we will hold, you can make the parallel. So I think we will probably hear a Wi-Fi router. Or more like 4G network.
Sorry for everything.
And the Bluetooth also. So yeah, I just show you those three, and then we will try to hear it a bit later. So it's really reading the analog waves of those sounds and then displaying it from the device. There is also the value, of course, which we will show you. But now I think what is left. Yeah, there is. Wanted just to show you that we use actually this device in the church because we wanted to know, okay, is the church.
Retourne dans le lien. Non. Non, dans le. C'est juste photo.
yeah, Laura is going to show you.
Yeah, it's actually the test we did because we already had this device when we were talking about the project, and we used it in the church. And actually, inside the church, it acts as a shelter, like a cocoon. So inside the church, you have less waves than outside. So here you can see inside the value is very low, and then outside, just outside the church, we went on the bridge. There is actually bridges. Usually there is more signal because it's more open, and then you have all the antennas around. And here you can see on the screen that it's way higher. So we actually walked a bit around, and we found it also nice for a reference for the project that inside the church it's very quiet. Actually, you're a bit sheltered from the noise of all those waves.
And maybe coming back to the data itself, it's quite technical. We're not going to talk too much about it, but if I come back to the folder, dans le tien, sur le bureau. Here in the, I'm just going to show you because otherwise you won't understand much. Yeah, yeah. So here is in French, but just saying that the value, so it's reading high frequencies, and if it's more than 1,000, the value that the device is reading is pretty bad for health if you stay too long. It's basically these data are made for, let's say, more for architecture, for new constructions. So when they build a home or things like that, they have to take care of different ecological or health parameter. And actually, electromagnetic waves is one of those parameters, and there is norm. And actually, a lot of people don't care about it, for obvious capitalist reason. But I think, yeah, it's interesting to see that there is some law and some norms about it, and the easiest way is like to put, for instance, your bed a bit further away from your router or from a 4G antenna that is close by in the street, things like that. So yeah, just maybe remember those colors and the value. If it goes higher than 1,000, it means it's a pretty high, how do you say, rayonnement, yeah, pretty high radiation, let's say radiation. So I think that's it for the presentation.
Yeah. We'll just go now for a small walk with the device and our phone.
Yeah, maybe just for the transition, we're gonna play the sound that Emma and Julie created for us for Parabol. So it's a sound they record also using a different device, not this one. Another one, they record the waves inside the church and transform it into a sound experience, mixing with the organ as well. So it's like half an organ play and half composition of waves. Yes. So Laura is going to play it, and
actually, I think you must allow me to do it on my phone.
John, can you hear us? Cool.
Yes.
I think Laura
yes.
is just asking to get the sound. Because we are like a participant, John, so I think
no.
Yeah. Laura.
One sec.
There is two Laura.
You have to just react sound.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think now we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So we just switched the
caméra.
Yes. Okay. See you in 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Du coup, je vais mettre le son ici. Alors, attends, les fichiers. So it's going to be very low at the beginning, and then it's going to be higher the sound. So hopefully you will hear it. Ça joue pas, ça je comprends pas pourquoi. Mais non, mais j'entends pas le... J'arrive pas à mettre le son. Ah, si. J'arrive pas à savoir s'ils entendent le son du truc, parce que moi, je l'entends pas. Ouais, bon, tant pis. C'est pas grave, on va vite. Le son, ça marche pas trop.
J'entends bien.
Mais je sais pas. Mystère.
I don't know if you can hear us, guys. So now we are on the street.
Yeah,
So
we
we're
can
on the
hear you.
street.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So there is an antenna not so far on the top of a building. So I don't know if Laura will try to zoom.
Yeah, it's the little dot.
Maybe I can point it here. Yeah, I point it.
So we're going to invite the audience to try and start guessing the noise based on the noise that we learned before. What kind of...
I think, yeah, those one are 4G. We forget to show you the router in my house actually was really the techno one. We tested before, but I think now we're gonna mostly hear the 4G one and maybe some Wi-Fi public box. We try to find it. So we're gonna walk to another one, 5-minute antennas close to the station. So I'm gonna put the sound maximum now. Here the value is pretty low. Huh? I think it's also because we are surrounded by buildings, so the buildings kind of somehow filter the waves, as we saw it in the church. And when we are in a more like exposed place, like a bridge, then the value will be higher. Let's say if we now it's pretty low, but if we go up, it should like again be more exposed. Let's try.
And the numbers of the display are related to the intensity, or is it related to the wave, or?
They are the intensity of the signal, which is here in how do you say it's microwatts per square meters. So that's kind of the value. And when it's higher than 1,000, as I mentioned before, it's pretty high. Now we are like in the, let's say, yellow or orange value.
In the street, we were at like 30, and now it's more like 300.
And when we were in my balcony before, it was around 1,000, so it was way more exposed.
The antenna is also directional, so if you point it at something, it will, like it will take the waves that follows this. So it means that if you turn it, you will not get the same type of waves.
Maybe we can try with the Bluetooth of Marc phones, just to show you the difference. So if Marc, already now you hear something different. Oh yeah, now you hear the Bluetooth. Non, pas trop près là. Recule-toi un peu. Oh yeah, here you hear the Wi-Fi, yes. So it's more like this techno, very, very quick noise. I don't know if you hear it. And if I change Yeah. No, sometimes it's quite hard to say exactly to what it corresponds, but I think we're gonna go walk a bit further to another antenna.
And what is this device usually used for? Who uses this? What's the purpose? Like, I mean, I guess that like engineers use it, or who is the people who uses this?
I think most of the people that use it, as I mentioned, is the people that built a new. I wouldn't say architects, but I think people that are hired to construct, let's say, healthy buildings. And so it's more for new constructions or things like that. But it could also be used by, we didn't talk about it, by electro hypersensible person. So it's really people that feel the waves really physically, let's say. And for the project Parabole, we invite one of them to make a performance and to talk about it. So those people have to let's say, really hide from the waves and also cover themselves with a specific textile that filter those waves. So the textile is made out of steel. It's almost like a middle-aged, how do you say it? Suits. Yeah, suits.
I don't know the name.
Armor. So now it looks like 5G, no?
No, it's higher again. Oh, so it keeps changing.
Yeah, but it has a different noise actually. Yeah. I don't know.
No, il y avait juste un
We have also a question from the audience. Daniel is asking if you have made readings with the device near wind turbines.
No,
no,
we haven't tried.
No, we haven't.
It would be nice too, but no, we only tested in Lausanne, and there's no wind turbine in Lausanne, sadly.
Yep. And there's another nice, well, not nice, but there's another comment on the chat saying that that the dog of one of the audience is reacting to the noise. That is looking physical, trying to work out what is causing the sound and where the sound is coming from. So dogs can also react to these sounds.
Here we have a quite.
Here it's quite high again. But
it's maybe
it's
it's
changing. I think it's my phone.
Maybe it's the phone of Marc or my phone.
Yeah.
Actually, I should.
So I guess that one of the things with here is also to try to identify, to separate each of the multiple networks and waves that come together. No, I guess that we are not conscious of like how many different waves are surrounding us every day, and this device, I can also the difficulties to just point to one of them shows that that we are like constantly surrounded by different waves that interact between each other. So they are going on top of each other.
Yeah, I think if you're really good at differentiating the different noise with those kind of device, you could say, for example, this is that kind of sound wave.
Now we hear a new one. Wow, it's pretty strong.
But it's still like in the city, it's pretty mixed up every signal. So it's also hard to tell which one from which one.
Have you taken this device to these valleys that you showed us earlier? Like, I mean, it was quite interesting to see how like this idea of nature
you mean in the
touched by technology. But...
No, we haven't taken it to Safetal. Actually, it's landed this device by a scientist who uses it. So we only took it in Lausanne, but we would love to test it further, and maybe we're gonna buy one for us as well.
Yeah, the only issue for now, the data is just read by the screen, but there is no way to save it on this device. So there is other edition which cost more, which can do it. But here the really interesting part is the sound feedback. But I think if we have other device with Bluetooth and things around it, that's why it could also modify and a bit influence the value. I think the best is just to be alone with the device and no phone in the pocket or things like that. to have, like, let's say, real value if you want to catch the correct source.
It's the best thing to bring to nature with.
Yeah, I think nature will be pretty calm, to be honest. But again, it depends a bit. Yeah, if there is antennas around and things like that. But I think now we're going close to the train station, and yeah, there should be some maybe public Wi-Fi network in the main space, so we could hear different sounds. I don't know how long people want to stay. Maybe we do 5 minutes more. What do you think?
If the audience has some other question, we can also reply to them while we walk.
Sure, I have a question actually, because I was telling you before about Christina Kubish and her electrical walk, and I did one of her electrical walks in Hong Kong, which was, of course, filled with all sorts of noises and signals. So like if you could choose to try and go and do this research and like you do your works in any other city outside of Switzerland, do you have a wish list, or do you have a place that you would like to try and go around with this device?
Well, I think places where they have a lot of things, like Hong Kong, must be exciting for that. But yeah, right now I don't really have an idea of places exactly, but I would actually love to test it in the nature to see how, I mean, because in the city it's not like a surprise that you hear a lot of different noise. I would love to see, like, in more remote places or places you think are remote, how much signal you can actually have with this device still.
Totally. And we also have another question from Tanya, who's asking, I hope this crazy looking device opens up interesting comments from the public. Oh no, it's not a question, but have you thought about citizen science type approach?
Sorry, say it again.
She's asking if you have thought about citizen science type approach, like citizens,
yeah, a bit like
data.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There was this project for Japan when there was Fukushima, and then they share it like Raspberry Pi device that could no, not pollution. It was radioactivity.
Yeah, radioactivity. Yes.
Radioactivity, and but this could be another approach. I think it could be more interesting that more people. We should find a way to actually store the data and create a map, a bit like we did for the other project, but then combine the data of different people. I think that could be definitely doable. Like people do it already for air pollution or radioactivity, and I think it could be a way. I think also to discuss maybe with the brand that that produced the device. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, following on that, on the chat just shared, I'm not sure if that's exactly the device, but Michael shared the costs of HF35C device, which is like almost 350 euros. I guess that's more or less the price of the device that you have get from this scientist. And then Tanya is saying that you could create a symphony with like the sounds recorded by all these citizen scientists in this hypothetical project that we are talking about.
Hypothetical, yes.
I think if we buy one of those devices that can store the data, that would be definitely something to try, and also to get. It's always hard to have the balance between the real scientist research, because obviously there is. We didn't talk much about it, but all the network company, they don't want those research to happen, because they still want to install 5G and more like quicker network and more without really thinking of the possible impact on the landscape or on the health of some people. So.
And I think if we want to, this device is quite big because it also detects a lot of frequencies, but 5G, for example, is smaller waves. So it could be also maybe a smaller device that you can have in your pocket. So that maybe could work with inputs from different people.
So now we are in the bridge, so pretty low value. But I think when we go out, we are not in a bridge, in a tunnel, sorry, in the station. But if we go out, we should get. Vous voulez que je le tienne un peu? Par le téléphone. But yeah, just before we pointed it to a ticket machine, and then it sounds pretty high. Maybe Bluetooth connected or Wi-Fi. I don't know. Laura will try, will give it a try. Put the sound a bit higher.
Not very high. A bit. Yeah. It's not much more than in the tunnel.
And this one maybe is not even connected. Ah, here I hear some.
Feels like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was thinking as well. No, this is a really nice way of identifying which devices are emitting these signals, because it's not all about, I guess, big antennas like
Here we have something.
Yeah.
The photo booth.
Oh wow!
And we're back to photography.
Super strong. I scared people with the noise. So basically, it was an old photography, you know, to make ID photo.
So the probably ending for the screen walk.
Long time ago, we did a similar project with Marc, but with a radiation detecting device, and this was a bit more scary for people actually. I think waves is scary, but it's still okay.
Yeah, here again, the screen seems to have some value. Slightly. Yeah, I think we're gonna stop here soon. And yes, Marc will end up, unless there is new other question from the audience, or maybe from the other work that we present. It was a bit chaotic the way we show, but it's a bit about screen walk, is about opening folders and different software in a messy way. So I think it was kind of fitting the format.
Definitely. I mean, we love looking into the folders and desktops of artists. So it was perfectly fine. Yeah, it was very interesting, in fact.
It was a great also adventure outside in the streets of Lausanne in Switzerland, also for everybody to experience this different view or sound of a city. So we just want to thank you once again for taking us through your screen and through the streets and showing how all of this hidden infrastructure is visualized and now like sonified. On this note, I think we will let you keep on going your sonic adventure on your own. And we thank all the audience and everybody who joined us in Zoom and on Twitch today. And we're going to be back in 2 weeks with Destructionist International.
Yeah. Yes. To say thank you, I'm not sure. I mean, I can hear some sounds, but I'm not sure what it is. Just to say that we will invite you all to join us again in 2 weeks. And thank you from my side too to Fragmentin. It's been a super interesting screen walk. Thank you to all the audience. It was great to see Lausanne. Thank you all, and see you in 2 weeks.
Station.
Greetings from Lausanne. Bye. Thank you.
Guys. Thanks, guys, and everything joining. And see you soon. See you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Ciao.